Hi, I'm Susanna Rodriguez. I'm the host of the TalkativeChic podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Today's guest, I had Mike Ortiz. He's a great friend of mine. Every time I talk to Mike Ortiz, I always come out of that conversation with something that I've learned. He's a scholar, he's a reader of great books, he's done the work with relationships. I ask him for advice all the time. I'm so glad that he came on to my podcast and we spoke about happiness today. All things happiness. I always have wondered what makes people happy. Are people innately happy? So we spoke about all those things today. I hope you really enjoy the podcast. Please subscribe, hit the like button, comment, and hit the bell so you can always get notifications when new episodes arrive. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day. I'm here with Mike Ortiz, none other than my good friend. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Susie. It is great to be here. This is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I love this. Love this.
Thank you.
Talkative chick. I love it.
Yes, it's a TalkativeChic podcast. Yeah, I've been wanting to do a podcast. We've always talked about podcasting, and we had our little Instagram stuff going on, and that was a lot of fun. And that was during the pandemic, and it was a good escape from all of that. And we had good conversations on that. But I wanted to kind of do something where it was a little bit more professional, more platforms and audio and all of that. And I was investigating which routes I wanted to go to because there's a lot of like producers out there and stuff. And then my brother was like, "Hey, I can help you out. I think I could figure it out." And he has, and it's not an easy thing to figure out. So very grateful for that.
I love this. It sounds so professional. Love it. Yes. Yes.
I know, right? It makes you want to go like Peter Piper picked up back up. Yeah, like, I can't even say it.
Luke, I am your father.
We're gonna become voiceover champions. Hello.
I'm Batman. Love it.
Oh my gosh, I love Will Arnett, right? The Lego Batman. I'm Batman. It's so low. It's so great.
I literally cried the first 10 minutes of that movie. I cried from laughter. I loved it. I loved when he and the Joker and he's singing the song.
Yeah.
Who's the what is it?
I can't
Who's
remember.
The Batman? Yeah. Who's the manliest man with the buns of steel? Who never skips leg day? I love it. Oh.
Yeah, Will Arnett is the best. I think he's so hilarious.
Oh.
Even in the Reese's Pieces, like the Reese's peanut butter commercials, he's just like, not, what is it? Not, oh man, I shouldn't have started quoting things, but not sorry. He's like, not sorry. But the Batman is just like it's like lower than any other Batman's voice. It's hysterical.
It's such satire, and I love it.
Yeah, it is hilarious. Oh my gosh. So we are here to talk about happiness. Right?
What is happiness?
Yeah, what is happiness? And I do want to get, all right, we had a little bit of technical difficulties, so we're back on this conversation. But we're talking about happiness, and I did want to tell everybody out there that if you suffer from depression or you are clinically depressed, we don't want to take anything away from that or kind of talk frivolously about happiness. And I want to be respectful to anybody that is suffering in depression, just because, sometimes people that don't know about depression or don't know the factors can be like, snap out of it, get happy, and that's not what we're trying to portray here at all. We're just trying to have a good conversation about happiness and just like an overlay of happiness, right?
Yeah. Sharing experiences, personal experiences, and stuff. But and hoping some of it resonates and maybe helps other people. Yeah,
for sure. I feel like the conversation of happiness is pretty intriguing because I know for me, when I wake up in the morning, it takes me a couple hours to get into the day. I don't wake up talkative at all. If I lived with somebody, it would be quiet. I mean, I remember college days, dorm days. I didn't talk to anybody for a while. Not
a morning person.
Yeah, not a morning person at all. I'm definitely more of an evening person. I get kind of a second win at night sometimes even. And going to bed early for me is hard. It's like I sometimes, end up going to bed 11 midnight, and then I'm like, oh man, I got to wake up at 7 in the morning tomorrow. So yeah, even at work, on the computer, people want to talk to me early. I'm like, no. Even just messaging.
I wonder what the percentage of, morning versus night people is. I'm a morning person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you wake up and you're like on.
Yes. I mean, provided I've slept enough, usually if I can get at least 6 hours sleep, I'm good. Yeah, I'm fresh. In the morning, I'm ready to go. My daughter, night person.
Okay.
When at night, she'll want to talk and she'll get loud and stuff. And I'm like, oh, keep it down. Something happens about 10 o'clock at night to me.
Yeah.
The switch goes off and I want to lower all stimulation. I'm winding down. In the morning, I'm ready to go. And she's like looking at me like, well, keep your distance.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And I think for me, a few hours in, I just kind of want to say, on a normal regular day where I'm not worrying about something, or I'm pretty much, I would say generally, I'm pretty much a happy person. I'm a happy-go-lucky person. But I know that not everybody's that way, right? When you navigate the world, you find people that are not happy at all, or people that are aggravated easily.
So I just, in my research, preparing and stuff, I watched an interesting video. There's this lady, she wrote a book. It's actually about positive feedback, about the science of happiness and feedback.
Okay.
Anyway, I think the title is "Thanks for Your Feedback" or something like that. Very interesting. But she in there she said that in her studies there was 3 factors that they were looking at when it came to happiness, and one of them was your set point or your baseline. So he said we all have a different set point or baseline, and the interesting thing about it, and it coincided with another study that I was hearing someone else talk about. The interesting thing about it is that, she was saying that outside circumstances, will give you either a bump, a lift, or will bring you down some from your set point.
Okay.
And part of her study was studying how much of a bump positive feedback gave you, or how much did negative feedback bring you down, and for how long. But she said in their studies that people that basically the whatever outside feedback or circumstance came your way, they found that a year later, lottery winners, she mentioned.
Okay.
People who won the lottery a year after were pretty much back at the same set point or baseline as they were before.
Interesting.
People who went to jail.
Ooh.
They study. These are scientific studies, actual studies.
Right.
I think she's from Stanford University. But these are actual scientific studies that they've done. A year later, people that go to jail, pretty much the same baseline. It's pretty hard scientific data that they've gathered over the years in different studies and stuff. Which goes to your point. We all have a baseline. Some people are usually at a 7 or 8. Some people are more, at a 3 or 4.
Oh, that's interesting, because it's comforting to hear about what positive things do to you and what negative things do to you. Because for me, I'm kind of, how they have the personality test. I know I'm a sanguine, where I'm pretty much good. If somebody comes and, it's so funny. I just celebrated my birthday not too long ago, and people that called me and just the fact that they said happy birthday, it skyrocketed. I was like, thank you. Skyrocketed, just those 2 little words, because I feel like it's an acknowledgement of your birth. It's and I love birthdays. And so it's skyrocketed me, but then unfortunately, I'm the other way.
I was going to ask.
Where any little comment, negative thing, and it could be something simple, it really can bring me down, and it can bring me down for days. And I was just talking about this with a friend, and I'm like, man, I wish I was one of those people that could just shake it off and just be cold. Like I have a big heart, so I feel, right? And I feel like if I was colder, because there's people that are just like, whatever, like you could go up to them and say the rudest, meanest thing, and it doesn't jar them because they're just like, whatever. But for me, it's like I go through this horrible sad cycle, or I get upset, or I'm upset for a long time, or I'm sad for a long time, and I guess it depends on the source of where it's coming from. It's not so bad if you're at a store and somebody's rude, because you're never going to see them again and that type of thing. But when it's hurtful things from somebody that you care about or whatever, yeah, it can really spiral you down. And I was talking to a friend, and he goes, well, I don't know of anybody that can just really shake things off like all the time. And I'm like, yeah, I got to learn how to do that, because I don't like the effects of that. Right. I mean, I would think everybody wants to be happy, right? I want to be happy on a daily basis. Yeah. And then when those things come, it's like, that's when I'm like, now I'm in this state. And I really try to get back to, I guess, the baseline. Right.
Yeah. She was talking about how she called it, the difference between more sensitive people and more insensitive people. And she said, maybe I should say more even keel. And she said, but if you're insensitive, you don't care what I call you, so it doesn't matter. But
true.
But yeah, she was saying how, the basis of the book was helping, because what happens is if we are overly sensitive, if we tend to be, sometimes it distorts the feedback. So when someone gives you negative feedback, for example, she called it the Google effect. So it kind of, in your mind, it Googles everything negative about yourself.
Oh, wow.
She said, and so some people hear, hey, this needs to get better or whatever. And it's almost like somebody clicked on something. She said, everything from the past, comes to your mind, and so it distorts. It distorts the feedback.
Yeah.
And so, but feedback is important. If we want to, in a relationship, in any relationship, I can be pretty sensitive. And I have to keep in mind, wait a minute, it's not about, it's about, like, I just started a new job recently.
Okay.
And my boss has had to several times say, why'd you do this? This was, this is unacceptable or whatever. And right away you go into defensive mode or whatever, but it's, at the end of the day, it's about, do we want to get better? Do we want to, it's about the job. It's about making sure things get done the right way.
Yeah.
So it's less of a personal attack. Now, some people, like you said, some people have a way of giving feedback where they make it sound like a personal attack.
Yeah.
So that's a whole, that's a whole art there where, in giving feedback, you separate the person from the action. And that's always helpful. Anyway, we're kind of getting
we're getting out of that, but I totally agree with you with the sensitivity issue, and I've tried to work on that in my own personal life. I do want to say this because I think it's interesting, but and I have to talk to myself a lot, and I think the source is important, because if it's somebody that loves you and is your good friend and would never really want to hurt your feelings, that's important.
Yes.
And then the delivery, I think people deliver things in different ways.
Yes.
Some people are harsher, just the way they say it.
Right.
It's not in a caring way. So So do you think that happiness is a decision? Like, do people decide to be happy?
Wow, that reminds me of a famous quote. I was thinking of several famous quotes about happiness. Abraham Lincoln had a quote about happiness, and he used to say that people are about as happy as they decide to be.
Oh, wow.
Now, I respect Abe, probably my favorite. If I wanted to meet a president, I would probably want to meet him, from the past. I've always, found him to be just super interesting. But as far as a decision, okay, so that's interesting. One of the authors that I was researching, Henry Cloud, one of my favorite authors, has a book called The Law of Happiness.
Okay.
And in there, he talked about, so it's actually been a couple decades that the APA, the American Psychological or Psychiatric Association,
Okay.
Made a shift in their focus of study and research and stuff like that, and they started researching. They started researching what makes people happy versus just studying, how to help people in trauma or with the negative things of life. So, they decided, we need to focus more on, okay, what is this subject of happiness, and how do people become more happy?
Mm-hmm.
He said that they, some big studies were made, and in the studies, they, the data pretty much, and it was hard scientific data that they came up with from, thousands of studying thousands of cases and people. And what they came up with was that 10%, they said 10% of your level of happiness comes from your circumstances. So getting that new job that you have always wanted, getting the new car you've always wanted, that new relationship, getting a raise, that's accounts for about a 10%, 10% of if there was a pie chart of your happiness. And those things give you a bump. But like we said before, like the other lady said, eventually you come to your baseline. So 50% is your makeup, your wiring, your baseline. That's pretty much, now we can argue, is that genetic? Is it nature? Is it nurture?
Mm-hmm.
Is it from your upbringing? Is it, or is it, are you born, with a certain set point? I think it's I've always thought it's a combination of all those things.
Okay.
I know that, you can see it in kids a lot of times where they just come into the world screaming and kicking, some of them. I saw it with my kids, and some are just from the get-go very quiet and subdued, and so, but there's also, I think, circumstances that shape us. And the brain is very, what they call plastic, or, has neuroplasticity. So situations shape us as well. So that's 50%.
Mm-hmm.
The good news is that 40% is how you live your life, the habits and the decisions that you make. And this is, again, from scientific studies and data.
Okay.
So if you think about it, that's a big chunk.
Yeah.
That's 40%. And that's what, I've always thought that a good approach to life is, what can I control?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what in this situation can I control? And if I focus my energy and my efforts on that, I feel like, I'm much happier,
Yeah.
So what is under our control?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things. One of the guys that I studied, or that I was researching and hearing from, Tal Ben Shahar, I think is his name. There's a YouTube channel called The Big Think. They have videos on all kinds of science stuff, everything from astronomy to neuroscience, to psychology, to politics, everything. Anyway, so he was talking about, and I think he wrote a book called Anti-Fragility. And the concept of the book is studying the things that people do and the habits people have, incorporate.
Okay.
that lead to more happiness. And so it's focusing on that 40%. He has an acronym in his book called SPIRE, SPIRE.
Okay.
And he said those are the areas people, and they stand for something I'll tell you in a minute. But these are the areas that we found that when people focus on these, it leads to more happiness. Because he this is interesting. He compared happiness to sunlight.
Okay.
Okay. This is interesting. So if sunlight is good, right?
Yes.
We agree. We love sunlight.
I think going outside is a good thing.
Yes. This time of year, my gosh, it was so gloomy this morning and drizzling and cold. So the joys of Northwest Indiana, right? At this time of year. But so sunlight is good, but it can be, you can get too much of a good thing, meaning if you stare straight at the sun, not a good idea. Right. So we enjoy light when it's divided into the spectrum. So there's different shades of light, and as long as you're not looking at it directly, it's a good thing. He said that happiness can kind of be the same thing. If you pursue happiness for happiness' sake, not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
If think about it. The things we associate with happiness, partying, and amusement parks and doing that. If you stay at that level and you pursue those things all of the time, eventually, first of all, I don't know how you could sustain it. I guess if you have an unending, source of money, and that's, but even then, you look at people that have all the money they want and stuff and go after the party life, and dive into it, head first, doesn't end well. A lot of people, you end up either overdosing or end up, having to go to rehab or whatever, because we're not made to live that kind of intense life all of the time.
Okay.
So again, he compared it to sunlight. So what are the colors of the spectrum when it comes to happiness? And again, this is just stuff I learned from watching his videos and stuff. But SPIRE is the acronym he came up with, and it stands for spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational, and emotional.
Oh wow, that's good.
Yes. So if it's just like a balanced diet.
Yeah.
If you let a kid eat whatever he chooses or wants, he's gonna want to eat cupcakes and candy all day long. But you do that for any length of time,
right,
you're gonna be in trouble.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be healthy. You're not gonna feel well. You gotta have balance. And in life, when it comes to happiness, again, those areas
all need to be kind of fulfilling.
Exactly. And then, because here's what happens, I think, and the reason I think a lot of people, and again, I'm just speaking from my personal experience. There's everybody, just from my lens, it doesn't mean that I'm absolutely right. I have all the answers at all. This is just,
right.
Again, so, from my experience, we all, and I think I asked the question, what is happiness? What is happiness? So is it strictly pleasure? Well, no, there's more to it than that. Like we just said, it's a spectrum. So there's also, there's different levels. Okay. So think about it this way. I think, Okay, so I went through a divorce about 7 years ago, and totally I did a deep dive into many issues, personal issues, trying to figure out what led to
Mm-hmm.
the failure of my marriage, and I had to take a good hard look in the mirror
Mm-hmm.
and realize that I had issues, and I could either just keep making the same mistakes, or I could try to learn and grow, and do better going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one of the many things I learned is that we all have some level of trauma from growing up. No, I haven't met the person that has escaped childhood unscathed.
Yeah.
No, some there's definitely a spectrum there.
Right.
And some have unbelievable trauma,
Mm-hmm.
Unspeakable trauma, abuse of just very bad, but and some is just um, some is not as bad, but we all have some level of trauma. So some people were abused either physically, emotionally, sexually, whatever, and some people just maybe never heard their father say "I love you."
Mm-hmm.
That's not necessarily it's
Right.
it's apples and oranges, but each of us carries something from the past.
Yeah.
We all do. So what happens is, as we get older, that trauma causes a certain level of discomfort. And so we go through life with an underlying pain.
And it's kind of hard to be happy,
Yes.
right, when you're carrying the pain, I would
Yes.
think. Yeah.
Yes. Some more than others.
Mm-hmm.
But, and so what happens is, a lot of times, if you compare it to the physical aspect, if you have, like I have back pain, I have shoulder pain and stuff, and I try not to take like Tylenol or Advil, only when I have to, just because I don't know, I don't, I've heard too much ibuprofen is not good for the kidneys and the liver,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I try not to, but sometimes I have to, but if it gets to a point where it's bothering and I can't sleep and stuff, then I'll go to the chiropractor, and he'll do some adjustments, he'll do some stretching and stuff like that. So I'm dealing with the root of the problem, so that I'm not just treating the symptom.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes what we go through life and we don't realize it, it feels good to numb that pain.
Mm-hmm.
It feels good to do that. And sometimes you have to, sometimes you have to just to get by.
Yeah.
But I've always been a believer that at the same time, you want to be addressing the root causes as well.
Yeah.
So you want to do both.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but what happens is we pleasure, the things that bring us pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
okay, can feel good and make us forget the pain temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
And we think, oh, this is good.
Mm-hmm.
I want more of it.
Yeah.
And that's fine as long as you don't stay stuck in that level,
Mm-hmm.
and forget to say, is there something here that I need to look at and address?
Yeah.
Let's dig a little, and let's see if I need to take a trip to the chiropractor. Sometimes if you have a toothache, an Advil will take care of it and you're fine, or some topical,
Mm-hmm.
something, and will do the trick and then you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's something inside that tooth rotting, you better get your butt to the dentist, you know, and because
Yeah.
I've had experience with that where it eventually the pain is much worse and you're doing a root canal instead of just a filling.
Hmm.
And it's that way with emotionally speaking,
Yeah.
and stuff. So when it comes to happiness, again, very important that you look at the big picture.
Mhm.
You know, again, this is just, I'm talking about the self-dialogue that I've had to have with myself.
Yes.
You know, and that's what I have done. That's what I've tried to do.
Mm-hmm.
Not perfect at it at all, but yeah, I've tried to, you know, look at whole, you know, at the whole picture holistically.
I love that. I love the self-dialogue. I am a person that talks to myself. I try not to answer myself, but no, I do talk to myself about issues because I think I've told you, like innately, I feel like I'm a happy person, but there are circumstances in life that can bring you to a brink of not being happy. One of them being when my dad passed away. Maybe because I lived with him and it was only him and I. And so there was a big empty space when he was gone, even though he was a very quiet man, but he was a presence still. And when he passed away, it was really hard on me. And I felt like there was kind of like a dark cloud for a couple of years. And it took me a while to finally get back to, I guess, my level. Yeah, the baseline of where I was at before. And so that's the only thing I can really point out where I was just not a happy person. And I was going out with friends and stuff, but it was almost like a fake laugh and a fake, like I could just tell it wasn't genuine for me. I don't think I really voiced that to anybody. I just kept it, you know. And then it wasn't till a friend of mine got married and I went to Florida and I was by the beach and it was just a different surroundings and that really helped me. And I was like, and I finally felt a little bit more happy and I was thanking God for it. I was just like, this is good. I finally feel like I'm back to normal. I don't know if it just was the scenery change or what happened in that moment that I just felt like it was a happy event. I don't know, but I felt like it kind of snapped me out. And I know I've had some bouts. I mean, we all get down at times or in a funk. I kind of like to call it, I'm in a funk, where it's just a couple of days of just not feeling yourself, right? And it might be circumstances, it might be worry, whatever. But I've had to talk to myself where like I'm sulky sulky Monday, I'm sulky Tuesday. By Wednesday, I'm like, you know what, Susanna, this is the last day. Like, this is it. You know, tomorrow, you know, you're going to be happy. Like, I don't know what you got to do, but this isn't up because I don't like being down. I don't like being sad. I don't like being melancholic. And normally I talk to myself and it's almost like I give myself permission to feel a certain kind of way that Wednesday. And then by Thursday, it's like, okay, we're snapping out of this. But I agree with you because I do think that there are underlying things sometimes in life, right? And you can tell yourself, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good, right? But maybe not so much. Maybe there's something that you need to change in your life.
And I think sometimes that's where therapy, like I said, I get my butt to the chiropractor sometimes once in a while. I have to, or if you want to use the teeth analogy, you get your butt to the dentist because sometimes flossing and brushing are very important and you should do it every day. And that's another good analogy right there. There are certain habits that you can incorporate in your everyday life that can help your overall mental health and your happiness level.
Okay. Let's talk about that. That's good.
Yes.
That's some good stuff.
So back to SPIRE, spiritual. Okay. And it's funny, you mentioned about the situation when your dad passed. I feel like the last couple of years with COVID and the lockdowns, think about it. Okay. So what a situation like someone passing, what it can do for you. Because did your father live with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was diagnosed with cancer.
Okay.
So it was kind of like, there was a moment where I didn't know what was wrong with him. And so that caused a lot of stress because I didn't know what was going on. He was losing weight. He was getting tired. Doctors weren't really giving us good answers. And finally, at any rate, we finally got a diagnosis that 95% sure he had bladder cancer, without even having to do a biopsy or anything. And he didn't want treatment. You know, he was older, and so I respected that. So I think that there was it was hard too, because it, you know, I don't know what's better, you know, getting an unexpected phone call that your loved one died, or knowing that they're gonna die, right? In a way, it kind of prepares you a little bit better because you're mourning along the way. But you want to be strong for that person. You want to create good memories with that person too while they're still there. But yeah, so I kind of knew he, you know, and I had asked the doctor how long he thought, and he goes, if he gets 6 months, he should be grateful, or he should be lucky, or something like that. He said, and he surpassed the 6 months, which was really cool. I kind of thought that was awesome. Yeah. But yeah, it was a tough time.
So think about it. So spiritual. Mm-hmm. One of the things that the author mentioned, spiritual meaning a sense of purpose, your relationship, you know, some people, in whatever way you have a relationship with God. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's important to have that sense of there's something greater than there's a purpose. You know, we're not just an accident. Just, you know, and living a life of just happenstance and accident. There's a purpose and a meaning and a you know, to all of this. So, so spiritual. So when someone passes, you know, like that, it throws you for a loop, because you're, you know, you begin to question, you know, and sometimes we feel a little bit divorced from God and from that relationship. It's like, you know, it just, you know, there's an emptiness. So, okay, so there's intellectual, physical. Okay, so who feels like getting out and exercising or doing anything when you're grieving? You know what I'm saying? You don't feel like that. And all these things can apply to how I mentioned about COVID as well. Okay, so think about all the lockdowns and the shutdowns and everything. People weren't going to church. People weren't getting together and going to the gym, physical. There's intellectual, SPIRE, intellectual. So, you know, you don't necessarily feel like taking on a new, you know, you know,
let's go to college,
new endeavor, exactly. You know, and so again, with the lockdowns as well, you have relational, obviously, you know, in your case, you know, that was the biggest relationship you had.
Yeah.
You know, so and then emotional, and I want to say a few things about the emotional that are very, very interesting. But all of those areas take a big hit when we go through certain, you know, events in life. Yeah. And so they definitely knock you off your baseline for and sometimes for a long time. Yeah. So let me just say something about emotions. So I think again, my personal experience, I think that emotions, very interesting. You said something very good. Allow yourself to feel the emotions. Sometimes we try to numb or stuff, and you know, because we don't like the feeling, especially, of course, or exclusively with negative emotions. So I think one of the tricks that I have found is learning to redefine negative emotions. Okay. Don't try to deny them. Don't try to stuff them. Don't try to make them go away or numb them, but redefine and allow yourself to ride that wave and feel the emotion and get to the other side. Okay. So grief, for example, in my mind, I have kind of defined grief as the bridge to acceptance. Okay.
It's a bridge to acceptance.
It's a bridge to acceptance.
Okay.
One of my favorite quotes or prayers or lines that, you know, that I have is the Serenity Prayer. Okay. Grant me, I always have to think about it.
I know.
Grant me the courage to accept the things I cannot change. Or no, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. The courage to change the things that I can change. And the wisdom to know the difference.
Mm.
I feel like that is probably one of the biggest keys
Mm-hmm.
to happiness. Again, happiness being more than just pleasure. Happiness to me is being at peace. You know, if you know, and so being at peace, and you know, in the Hebrew Bible, the word is shalom, peace. Sometimes I remember, you know, in the Eastern religions, the, you know, like the monks and stuff like that, they focus on inner peace, you know, and balance and that inner peace. So I remember watching with my kids when they were little, the Kung Fu Panda movies with Jack Black.
Yeah. Love Jack Black.
Yes. And there's a little panda, a little tiny panda that was his master, Master Shifu.
I've never seen it, by the way.
My gosh.
I don't really watch a lot of cartoons.
If you're a Jack Black fan, you need to watch it.
Yeah.
I don't watch cartoon movies anymore now, but when my kids were little, I would. One of the big keys to happiness, again, I'm just speaking to, you know, what I've learned and what I've seen personally, what's helped me. Okay. There's an equation that I've heard people say for happiness, and that you can use to measure how happy you are. And that is expectation minus reality.
Okay.
The difference between the two determines your level of happiness. In other words, if your expectations are way up here.
I love that equation, by the way, because you've told me that before, and I love it.
And your reality is down here. This is the job I would love. I want. This is the job I have. This is the income I want, but this is the income I have.
Yeah.
The greater the difference, the less happy you're going to be. The more tension there's going to be in your life. The more angst. Acceptance, is when you can either raise your reality to meet that expectation, or you lower your expectation to meet that reality, and then your inner peace. You know, now that's a whole conversation there, because I feel like I have always leaned on the side of just accepting whatever for many years. You know, I'll just accept whatever, you know. And so, but you need both. You need expectations and you need goals, but you have to get real, you know, and learn what's a realistic expectation, what are good expectations, you know. You know, but you need healthy goals in life, and you need healthy expectations, but that creates a tension, you know. And so life, in order, I call it the art of being a happy striver. So striving for something means that you're not content with what is, you know. Right.
Wow.
So you're striving, but you have to beware the trap of being such a striver and never being content that you're just, you know, that you're miserable, that you're miserable in life at the same time. Yeah. So how do we negotiate that? And so learning again, learning the serenity and the inner peace to accept the things I cannot change, and learning the courage to change the things that I can. It's a constant back and forth, you know, between those two, and balancing the two. So taking regular stock of your life and saying, these are the things that I'd like to do. Simultaneously taking time to say, you know what? I look around, I'm grateful for what I have.
Yes, I think gratefulness is so huge.
Yes.
I love your equation, because wow, there's so many times that even subconsciously we can say to ourselves, like, if I get that new job, I will be happy, right? Or if I am married, I will be happy. Or if I have a kid, I will be happy. And I just love it when people can kind of simplify their life a little bit. And I'm thinking of a friend right now where there wasn't expectations of children. Like she told me when she got married, she's like, look, if I have children, great. If I don't, great. Because I feel like I'm not going to chase that. And that was so big for me to hear because I had never heard that before. I always hear of we are going to have a child one way or another. That's what I've always kind of heard. Which, there's people that don't want kids. I'm not saying that. But when people are married and want children, it's almost kind of like this drive to get a child. Go through in vitro, if not adopt, if not foster, if not, And I kind of felt like with her, she was just kind of like, hey, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I will be fine either way. And I love the simplicity of that. I had never heard that before. And it stayed with me several days. I kept thinking about it. And I think expectations are huge. And sometimes we put too much expectations on another person, on a situation. And I love the gratefulness.
That's the mother of all virtues, according to Cicero, Roman philosopher. He called gratitude the mother of all virtues.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the quickest path to happiness. I think as far as you look around and you say, okay, you can look at the glass half full or half empty.
Yeah.
That's a choice.
Yeah.
That's
that is a choice.
We don't control things. A lot of the things that happen, but we control our response,
right?
And the choice to look at what I do have versus what I don't. But yeah, and then about your friend, some people call that high intention, low attachment. I read a book by Brendan Burchard called. What was it? High Performance Habits.
Okay.
High Performance Habits. Very good. Brendan Burchard. Great story. I won't take time, but yeah, if people want to research him, great story. He had a brain injury. So did Jim Quick. I don't know if you know who Jim Quick is.
No, I don't. I've never
Great
heard
story.
that name.
Jim Quick. Google Jim Quick.
Okay.
Brendan Burchard.
Everybody Google this.
Yes. Yeah. Look them up. Look up their interviews, videos. Anyway, but yeah, high intention, low attachment. Yeah.
Yeah, I just love that when she said that. I felt like my brain just expanded. Like I was like, I've never heard anybody say that, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think that that is a secret of happiness there too. Is just not having these, and it's hard because when I was in teenage years, 20, like getting married and having kids was the end all. Like it was like kind of, church upbringing kind of pushes that, that's when you're going to be happy and that's when you're going to be fulfilled. And I actually had a person, a girlfriend of mine at the time, tell me, a woman without a man is a nobody. And I couldn't believe she said that. She had just gotten married maybe a year or two before that. And I just kind of looked at her bewildering. And back then I didn't have I guess we're going to talk about boundaries, but the boundary of not accepting those kind of, or right. Fighting back those kind right. of, in my brain, I kind of thought, well, wow, if her husband passes away, then does that mean she's nothing again? Like, does she revert back to nothing? Like, I thought of that.
And these are some of the, you can call it trauma, you can call it whatever, but
philosophies
that we carry, philosophies that we carry that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there was a point where I just kind of felt like, wow, I'm not getting married, blah, blah. And then there almost is like this insinuation that something's wrong with you because you're not married. Right. And then I went to my class reunion and they're like, oh, it's a good thing you're not married. You're living the life. And so everybody sees you differently, yes. Right? And I go to concerts and I'm doing comedy and people are like, man, Susanna, you got the life. You could do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it. And I don't have that freedom. So yeah, you can kind of see the grass greener or not greener or whatever, and woe is me and why me, and like all of this pity party that we kind of go through. But yeah, I think gratitude is really good. And I know people that have like gratitude journals where they wake up every morning and they write down what they're grateful for. I want to start doing that. I'm just not a good writer. So sometimes I think about it in my brain. I think as long as you're processing it somehow, because yeah, that really helps. I mean, if you start thinking about all the great things that are in your life and the great relationships you have, and things that you don't really have to have, like, you know, you could be in a situation where you never met great people, or you don't have the job you have, or what have you. But yeah, I think gratefulness is huge.
I recently, another thing that I think important to keep to gain perspective. I recently heard an interview of a young lady who escaped from North Korea when she was like 11 years old. And I tell you what, if you want to kind of get some perspective on how lucky we are to be and live in America, and in a free country, you know, but you know, we didn't choose that. You know, I say you don't choose where you're born. You know, I could have been born there, and then what? You know, so I mean, that's a good start right there. Hey, I'm grateful for that. You know, I have choices. I have freedom. I have, you know, so there's always something you can that you can kind of, you know, use to get you there. You know, gratitude. You know, for sure. But back to the so those are the positive emotions that we can use, you know, in the right way to help us with happiness. You know, gratitude, huge. And then when it comes to the negative emotions, like I said, I think redefining fear is a big one. So fear, there's good fear and there's bad fear.
Oh, okay. I never knew there was good fear.
I feel like, there's definitely, there's good fear. Fear can be good. You know, fear is that, you know, that feeling you get when you're walking down a dark alley at night by yourself in the city or something like that. And you're like, something's not right here. It's you know, it alerts you. Exactly. It alerts you. Anger, the same way. Anger, there's good anger and there's bad anger, you know? And so we shouldn't try to shut all fear out or all anger out. Same thing with grief. You know, I think to a certain, if you do it right, it's about finding out what the purpose is. I think, you know, fear has a purpose, anger has a purpose, grief has a purpose, and it's to get you somewhere. You know, so let me ask you. So you've delved into and kicked off your stand-up comedy career. Was there ever any fear?
You
know?
I just never thought of fear being good, but I guess it's true. It can motivate you to prepare better. It can motivate you to
and you can, you know, another thing Brendan Burchard talked about is when you redefine fear, in other words, the butterflies, the feeling in your stomach you feel and stuff, and the nervousness, you can redefine it as, I'm just excited. You know, this is the feeling I get because I'm venturing out into something new and something exciting and something I want to do. Okay. So anytime you launch into an uncharted territory that you've never been in before, you're gonna get that similar feeling to the fear you feel when you want to avoid something, because our brains are wired in such a way that anything that we've not experienced before, because our brains are designed to protect us.
Okay.
And so anything that's new, uncomfortable, uncharted, there's bells and whistles that go off and say, no, stay in your lane. You know, our brains try to tell us, no, don't go there. Stay in the familiar. You know, so if you realize that and you say, no, these are just butterflies. I'm learning here.
Yeah.
I'm growing. I'm going
Okay.
for my dream and my goal.
Yeah.
You know, then that's redefining the emotion so that you're not just avoiding it or stuffing it or denying it, and you're using it, you know, and it gets you to where you want to go.
Yeah.
Okay. This, you know, same thing with grief. Like I said, you know, a lot of times, so acceptance, we talked about acceptance and, you know, the expectation and reality, and how acceptance is where you want to get. So it's a constant, you know, setting goals, figuring out, you know, do I raise my reality here? Do I strive for the goal, or is that an area where that's just not either a realistic goal or not the right goal for me, and I just need to bring that down, you know? But you know, so it's a constant negotiating between the two. Okay. Now, in the areas that we've talked a little bit about reaching for the goal. We just talked about, you know, overriding the fear so you can go for it. You know, you're becoming a world famous stand-up comic and a podcaster.
Extremely generous.
And a podcaster. I love it. I feel I've always told you to just don't forget the little people.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have not. Thank you. But so we talked about that.
Yeah.
So what happens when, for example, there's something like having children and it just doesn't, you know, it just doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and that's maybe a dream that you've had, an expectation that you had. What happens there? How do we regain that level of acceptance? Yeah. You know, it's not like you can, you know, always, just, you know, I know a couple that just went to Mexico and they're trying to adopt, and I'm not sure if they were able to or not. But that's always been something that they've wanted to do, and they're pursuing, you know, things, but hopefully they're successful and they can reach that, you know, milestone in their life. But if the time comes when it's just not going to work, then how do you bring that expectation down? Yeah. And the answer is grief.
Okay. Yeah.
The grieving, there's 5 stages of grief, right?
Okay.
There's denial, anger, bargaining, grief, and the last one, acceptance.
What's the bargaining? Everything else makes sense, but
bargaining is maybe there's a way. Maybe you know, you're still trying to negotiate.
Okay.
You're still trying to negotiate some way. To you know, maybe this or maybe that. You know, you're still in that. You know, So then when you realize that it's just not going to happen, then you get pissed. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You know, and you have to allow yourself to go through these stages. A lot of times, you know, it's a process that I think helps you through trauma as well. You know, grieving what you should have had. You know, the childhood, you know, parts of my childhood that I should have had. I've had to do a lot of that. You know, we came out of an environment that, you know, that I've had to, you know, deal with a lot of issues. You know, so yeah, it's important to go through that process in order to get to acceptance.
That's interesting.
And so that's how you bring down the expectation when that's the only choice you have, you know? And so, and then, you know, again, it's just a constant negotiating. Okay, what now? You know, do I want to stay here? And I feel like, so we go back to SPIRE, right? Spiritual, intellectual. The intellectual, you know, a great book that I remember reading some time ago, it's called Mindset by Carol Dweck. And basically the premise of the book is that some people go through life believing that they have a set, that your intelligence in life and your abilities are set.
Okay.
That's called a fixed mindset. So, and some people go through life thinking I can grow, I can learn, you know, I don't have that ability, but I can learn it. you know, and that's more of a growth mindset, you know. And so I think that we are another key to in the spectrum of happiness is that ability to say, you know what, I think I can grow.
Yeah.
You know, and I think again, being a happy striver,
Yeah.
I think is big, you know.
Yeah.
But that growth mindset is I think good. I think the moment, and I see it sometimes. You see it in older people where they just kind of give up, and they just, you know, there's no. I never want to get there.
Yeah, right.
I wanna. As long as I have the ability to move, I want to move. You know, and you know, and as long as I have the ability to learn, I want to learn. I don't want to, you know, because the moment you stay stagnant, you start sliding back. I feel like, you know, so you're either growing or you're dying.
Yeah.
You know, and so, so I think that's big. You know, relational. That's a big one we haven't touched on. So I remember, so experts agree that that's probably the number one factor in your level of happiness, how long you live, your health, is your relationships.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And the quality of your.
I think that relationships are fuel for the soul.
Yes.
Like, I felt like during the pandemic, I was dying socially. Like, I was dying inside because I didn't have connection with people.
The last 2 years, I feel like so many people. I was talking to a lady at work the other day, and her husband is some kind of distributor for a liquor company, or a company that just distributes liquor or something like that. And she was like, you know, the business is like, has grown like gangbusters. She said people are drinking a lot more, you know, and you know, so, but yeah, you know, the quality of your relationships is huge. I remember hearing a couple of TED Talks a while back about what they call blue zones.
Okay.
Do you know what a blue zones are?
No,
okay.
Not at all.
So blue zones are these pockets around the world where people that scientists have studied, because, you know, like the little pockets, like, you know, in the, you know, Far East somewhere in some village where people live to be like 125 average.
Oh, wow.
You know, and just people have these really long lifespans.
Okay.
And so they began to study what's going on. What are the common denominators? You know, and they some of these places were in totally different parts of the world. Okay. And the one common denominator. So they said, is it the diet? Is it the climate? What's going on? The one common denominator was that they had very tight knit relationships. There was a sense of community in these places. And the moment that something happened that changed that dynamic in that community, the lifespan went way down. Yes.
I wonder if that's going to happen to us with like social media and people just on their phones all the time. Yeah. I have to watch it, and we've talked about that because this is another thing with happiness too, I feel, with social media. Yeah, I feel like I've tried to have to control. I mean, I know the apps are on our phone, so easy to just grab and look. But I've had to tell myself, okay, we're not doing Facebook. You're not going to look at Facebook today, or you're going to post stuff with comedy and walk away. I've had to do that a lot. Where like just post, walk away, post, walk away.
Yes.
Because it's great for reaching out to people and letting them know what's happening and getting ticket sales and all of that. But then we had a conversation about this where I feel like you can go through 10 different emotions just scrolling down your Facebook page, right?
Why didn't they include me? Why didn't they invite me? Yeah. Oh, look at what they have. Ooh, I don't have one of those. So that's a comparison.
There's a lot of that. Yeah.
Comparison kills gratitude.
Oh, wow. Really? Comparison kills gratitude. Yeah.
Because makes sense. When you begin to compare, and you're like, right.
And it's funny how comparison works, because it's never like, oh, they have less than I have. It's never that.
Right.
It's never that. It's always like, well, they got a Mercedes, and I'm driving in this junk car or whatever.
Look how happy they look.
Yeah.
Oh, look how, but
or they're there and I've never gone there.
Exactly.
Or just weird thoughts.
They take so many vacations.
Yeah.
Or they look so happy, or they and it's like, I'm not.
Especially if you're on a down day, right? If you're down and you start looking, and everybody posts their best self on Facebook, most people. Now, there are people that do like to post the dramatic events or the bad things that are happening, right? Like, I'm sorry, I probably will never post a picture of me in a hospital gown. If I'm in the hospital, very few people are going to know about it. I think.
I don't have all that many friends on Facebook. I don't think I've come across any of those.
Oh, wow. I have. And it's okay. I mean, I'm not trying to, because sometimes it's about like, pray for me, but it's, that, but you can go through, like, somebody passed away, and so you're sad about that. And then somebody got diagnosed with cancer, and you're sad. And I mean, I'm not saying to not be, I'm just saying just the emotional. I was talking to somebody about ADD, and I go, I think we're all going to have ADHD because we're just like, 1 second you're at work, and you're focusing on something, and then it's like ding, and you go look at Facebook, and it's like somebody just had a baby, and you're happy about that. And then, like, you scroll down, somebody died, then somebody, somebody's somewhere, somebody's in some tropical island, and it's like there's a snowstorm here in Indiana. You're just like, man, that looks so good, So there's just too much, but I love that comparison. Is the death kills gratitude. Kills gratitude.
It kills gratitude.
That's the thing that kills happiness. Right?
When you just focus on, when you just focus on, well, I do have this and I do have that. I can be grateful for that.
Yeah.
Rather than, oh, they have that. I don't have that.
Right. Right.
So, but social media. Ooh, that's a big one. We're more connected than ever, but at the same time, the quality of the relationships is probably worse than ever.
Yeah, agreed.
Not for everybody.
Right.
I'm just speaking as a whole. If you allow social media to be your be all end all, you're gonna get sucked into that hole. And so I like what Denzel Washington said one time about social media. You got to ask yourself, are you using it or is it using you? And it's, when I feel like it's starting to use me, I deactivate for a while.
Yeah.
And I just say, you know what, I'm gonna, I'm gonna focus on me, what I got to do, and everybody else, I hope is good, and I hope they have their best life. But, that's definitely, something that's a whole subject there.
That's
social
a
media,
whole thing.
social media.
I think it's like perspective too, because I think people do put their best self on, if I'm just at home chilling, watching a movie, I probably wouldn't tell anybody, hey, I'm binging this or whatever, but if I'm out at some concert, or if I'm at a different city, or if I'm at an interesting restaurant or whatever, I'm going to post and be like, here I am, And I kind of like doing it because then at the end of the year, I can kind of scroll back and see kind of a diary of my life. I'm like, oh, I did this and I did this and I did this, or whatever. But and then I have friends that don't like to get checked in,
Right.
Like, don't put me on there. I'm like, okay, well, then it looks like I'm by myself, which is fine. But everybody's got their comfortability with social media. But there have been moments in the last, I'm celebrating my birthday, so it might not be, maybe February, January, where I didn't post. Like, I just started going out places and having my life, and I didn't post. And it was a little refreshing, I will say. Like, it was kind of refreshing to not be like, it's almost like a to-do. Like, you get there, let me check in. Like, that's the to-do list. Right. I got to check in. It's crazy.
Sometimes,
it's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know why I just thought of this, but did you ever watch, this is weird. I'm sorry. My brain just goes weird places sometimes.
Okay.
Did you ever watch the movie, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
Oh,
with Ben Stiller?
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
Ben Stiller?
Okay.
It's an old movie. It's probably from a decade or more ago.
Okay.
I think it was Sean Penn that played a photographer in that movie.
Okay.
And he was trying to capture like a very rare snow leopard way up in the Himalayas somewhere.
Okay.
And Ben Stiller's character tracked him down. Had to track him down for some reason and got there. And so this very rare snow leopard came out of his den and walked around, and Sean Penn's character was there, and he had the perfect shot.
Yeah.
You know, he was a photographer for this for Life magazine or whatever he was playing in the movie. Anyway, he didn't snap the shot. Oh. And Ben Stiller's character says to him, you know, Walter Mitty was his name. He says to him, so why didn't you take the picture? He goes, no, sometimes it's just so beautiful. I just want to take it in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I think that I have to remind myself sometimes that, you know, because we can fall into the trap of we can fall into this trap, Susie. And I have to guard constantly. We can fall into the trap of going to do stuff so that I can post.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's crazy.
or making the people that you're with feel like the time with them is not what's important here. It's what people see.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's what people see. Yeah. That's what I care about. You know, I'm saying, oh, look at me or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just put it down. It's like, no, we're not going to post anything about this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I agree.
Now I think where it can be a good thing, social media, is I have a lot of relatives that live all over, you know, in Puerto Rico, all over the United States, you know, North Carolina, Florida, New York, and stuff like that. And so a special event happens, everybody gets to see at the same time. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
You know, again, but you always have to guard yourself and sometimes, you know what? No, I don't have to post this. Let me take it in. Let me just be, or if you're with your, you know, significant other, or with your kids, or with your brother, sister, your parents, or whatever. Yeah. You know what? Let me just be with you.
Yeah.
Let me just
That's
be with
beautiful, you. Isn't it?
You know,
that's how life used to be.
You know,
yeah, just taking in the moment.
Exactly.
I love that about taking in the moment, because I think that there's there's a lot of times it's not.
That's part of being a happy striver is learning to, you know, again, striving is all about where do I want to get to? What do I want to, you know, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? And again, you have to balance that out with, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
Let's be in the moment. Let's take this in. You know, I love going to the beach and watching a sunset. I love taking a bike ride by the lake and just saying, you know what, it's all good. I'm good right now. Yeah. You know, it's important too. That's one of the habits that I think is good for us to have, you know, so learning to be at peace.
Yeah, that's so good with peace. And I think, incorporating moments like that, going to the beach, going to places that make you happy, that just reminds you. And I think the beach is so beautiful because it's bigger than ourselves, right? I feel like the ocean and the sea and the water, it's bigger than my little one problem I had today, you know? So it's a beautiful, beautiful scenery. And I think, that's so important.
There's neuroreceptors in the eyes, and there's actually, you know, neuroscience that backs this up, you know, where the colors, even the colors of a sunset, looking at the colors, release certain chemicals in the brain that relax you and make you feel good, you know. So when they say, you know, I've heard this phrase quite often, you know, in the research a lot by people who are into neuroscience. We're wired for connection. We're wired for happiness. When we do certain things, you know, like even giving, like they put people in a MRI machine and stuff, and like this, when, you know, there was a study made where they had people, they gave people a certain amount of money, and I think they were looking at a screen or something, and they could decide to give whatever money to charitable causes or keep the money or something. And giving lit up the part of the brain that's associated with pleasure, with food and sex and pleasure and stuff. Like so we're wired for certain things. Giving's one of them. Gratitude is one of them. And then like I said, even getting out and enjoying nature, that that stimulates certain parts of the brain that release feel good hormones and stuff. So there's a lot of things that and that brings up an interesting point. I feel like where I came from and how I grew up, it was kind of taught to neglect yourself. Okay.
That's true.
To kind of be a martyr, and so don't neglect yourself. Don't that the more you neglect yourself, kind of that was a good thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like one of the things I've had to learn is to listen to those cues the body sends, the signals the body sends. What is it that makes me happy? Or what is it that makes me feel good? And not just without crashing, without the negative effects, and there's plenty of things in life that you can do that can raise your level of happiness. And I think one of the things that I've had to learn is to listen to what my body tells me. To listen to that feedback. So that's a whole
that's a whole other
conversation.
It is good. It's a good one too, and it kind of leads into boundaries too, because like sometimes people want you to do something or people want you to go somewhere and you're like, I don't really want to go. I've had a battle with that a lot, where I'm like, I don't really want to go, but I don't want to upset the person. And it's interesting because people that are diagnosed with a terminal ill disease or something kind of sometimes write like things I wish I would have done, in my life. And one of them is always going to places where I didn't want to go. Like I wish I had just done what I wanted to do, right? And put myself first in a little bit. And sometimes I feel like it could be your mood or whatever, and it's good to get out. I'm not saying like totally reject every invite, because sometimes you're just maybe down, but that's what you need is kind of like the medicine of people and getting to a different environment and talking to people and stuff like that. But I love that. Listening to yourself. If you're tired, rest. If you're a lot of self-care is needed,
again, those emotions have a purpose. And the way you feel has a purpose. Your body's trying to tell you something. So, and again, it's important to differentiate and be able to tell the difference, because sometimes it's good to push it and override it and redefine it. But sometimes it's good to say, you know what, no, I need to listen here. So learning the difference between the two, very good. The difference between giving and receiving, or the tension there. We talked earlier about the tension between reality and expectation. But that's also wow. That's something I've had to learn. I grew up, with the the constant, that give.
And others, which is it's great,
yes.
But
you need both.
There needs to be a balance.
You need expectations, you need reality, and you need to, learn to negotiate the two. You need to give, you need to receive. You need connection, you need separateness in relationships. There's always, it's not one or the other.
Right.
You need both. You need both. If you only give, that's not sustainable.
It's a great. It's just being human, right? Because sometimes
Yes.
Like those philosophies are not really human.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But
And obviously, if you're only a taker, and and it's all about taking and receiving, that's not good either.
Right.
So learning to do both,
Okay.
I think it's good. So yeah.
Anything we left out of happiness, or we want to touch on?
Not really. I think we pretty much. I think that's been the biggest thing for me, is the whole goals versus reality, expectations versus versus reality, striving versus living in the now. Which one do I do?
Mm-hmm.
How do I reconcile the two? That's been the biggest, I think, thing that I have wrestled with in the last couple of years, because I went from someone who was always extremely compliant, always just accepted, always went along, never make waves, never stay away from conflict, stay, just don't rock the boat. I went from being someone like that the first 40 years of my life to realizing, wait a minute, I have a responsibility, right? If you believe in God, you believe that you're going to stand before God someday, and you're going to give an account for your life. He's given you certain talents and gifts, and he's gonna say, what'd you do with it? Did you do anything with it?
Yeah.
I feel like, and so no one else is going to answer for me. I am. And so I went from someone who, I had a tendency of just, again, because of the way I grew up and stuff, of just signing on to other people's agenda, and so realizing, wait a minute, I have a life too. I've been given something here, and I have a responsibility to contribute with what I have. How am I going to do that? And so I've had to learn, okay, wait a minute. So, but the moment I started saying, oh, well, maybe I want this, or maybe I want to do this, it created a tension. It created a tension because all of a sudden I'm no longer okay where I am. I'm no longer, I'm not, so.
What do you mean by that? Like to yourself, attention, or the people around you? What tension was created?
Within myself.
Yeah.
So
you're comfortable here.
So now it's like, okay, so, I'm not happy until I do that, or I'm not at peace, and so I'm like, what do I do here? And so it's, but again, I've had to learn that as I strive, I take time to be in the now and to be grateful for what I do have, and regularly, refocus on that, and then say, okay, what's the next step I need to take,
It's good.
And so, I like what you've done over the last, since we kind of reconnected a couple of years ago in the summer.
Yeah, it was your sister's birthday party, and
ever since then, you've done shows. How many comedy shows have you done?
Wow. Okay, so let me count. 2, 4, 5. I want to say 5 big comedy shows, and then of course I've gone to Chicago.
Did you think, and when we had that conversation, did you think, would you have thought, if someone said, you're going to do this in the next year or two?
Yeah. What's crazy? I feel like it was always in the back burner. I had gone through acting, but I was always like, man, I'd like to try stand-up. I like to try stand-up. And I always wanted to do kind of a podcast thing. So we did the Instagram thing, but it was always in the back. It's been in the back burner in my life for a long time. I want to say, God, at least 5 years before the pandemic. I mean, so what, 2015? It was just always in the back burner, like something I wanted to try. But yeah, it's scary, right? I mean, there's like, as outgoing as I am, it's still like, wow. And then I had to really analyze, like, okay, kind of expectations, I guess, too. I kind of analyze, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? Because sometimes, like, when you're posed with a problem and you're worrying, it's good to dial back and go, like, okay, what's the worst case scenario that could happen with this problem? So I was like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? I can get up, I can do 5 minutes of comedy, and nobody laughs. Okay. Yeah. Is it gonna hurt? Yeah, it's gonna hurt. I'm probably gonna be sad about it, but I'm still alive. I'm still breathing.
Right.
I can get up again, and maybe they will laugh the second time. So I think that was that fear of like not making people laugh, and then also surpassing people's comments. Like once I started telling people I wanted to try it, it was like, well, you have to be really funny to be a stand-up comedian. What if nobody laughs? Like all these comments that are thrown your way. And man, I had a really good moment. I went to see Will Smith. He has a book out, and I went to see his book and his book tour. And he said, he goes, your dreams are fragile. And he goes, and when you give them out to people, like sometimes the reaction is coming from their mindset, not your mindset. And he's a very positive power person, like go for it type of guy, right? I love Will Smith. But like, I feel sometimes when you tell some people your dreams, like it's great to hear, go for it, do it. I mean, I remember when we talked, you've been applauding me ever since, which Mike comes to all my shows, which I'm very, very, very grateful for. That was really kind and sweet of you as a friend to come to all my shows. But it's like, it's great to have that. But then when you have somebody that's like negative, I had to really think about, okay, that's coming from their perspective. And it was actually good. Because sometimes you don't want to hear the negative comments, but it kind of gives you a kick in the butt. It kind of makes you go, and for me, I'm going to prove you wrong. Like I have something in me that when somebody's like this, I'm like,
good.
nah, we're going to do this and we're going to see how it goes.
That's a common denominator that I feel like I've seen in people who are achievers is using whatever is thrown at you as fuel.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. I had somebody, it was really, and I mean, again, I do not harbor hard feelings for anybody that says negative stuff. And I might go through a couple days of being pissed, at the negative comments, but then it's kind of like, oh no, we're going to do this and we're going to see. And it's kind of like sink or swim. I remember the first big show I did at the Hobart Art Theater. I was freaked out for a couple months before it, and I actually was going to cancel, and I got freaked out because, there's, with any of these shows, there's a risk factor, right? You've paying comedians, and what if people don't buy tickets? Like there's just a risk. And so then I was kind of like, you know what? It's like do or die time. Like, let's do it. Again, what's the worst thing that could happen? I could be out some money, whatever. Okay. I tried it. It didn't work. It failed. Like, move on. So I was just like, let's just do it. And it was great. There were 200 people came. I think it was a really good sweet spot where people were ready to get out from the pandemic. And it worked out. It worked out really well. And then every show, and it's funny because I was talking to somebody else and I was like, man, I get nervous. And they're like, why are you nervous in actions? All of them have been fine. Like, every show's been fine. Like, why are you so nervous? I'm like, I know. Why am I nervous? Why am I nervous? Yeah. And I love what you said about good fear, because I've always tried to get the anxiety out of me. I'm like, oh, I hate feeling this way. And I hate feeling like, it's harder to breathe.
Just redefine it. Say, you know what? This is good. This is good that I feel this way. It means I'm growing. I'm trying something new.
And it does. It means you care. It means that that you're doing something exciting. That you're not just sitting on a couch doing nothing.
So one of the things that I heard, prior to coming, is people so if you have a big goal, a lot of times people get discouraged because I could never do that. I could never do that. But people that got there, the people that you look up to that are huge comedians or whatever, they didn't do that. They did the steps.
Yes.
They did the little steps, and then we'll see where it goes. Right. And so you're an inspiration.
Oh,
because I
thank
feel
you,
like
Mike.
you know what, just get started,
Yeah, just do
just
it.
get
Yeah.
started, you know, and
Yeah.
and then take small steps.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like that's an inspiration to
Thank you.
all of us. Go for your dreams. Go for your dreams. You'll have a podcast someday, and you'll be a stand-up comic someday.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that I love being around people that are growth minded, and you're one of them. So
Thank you, Mike.
and that's an inspiration. So thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness, it's been a great conversation, and thank you for being my friend, and thank you for coming. I really, really appreciate it.
Love it.
Yeah, and we've gone over, but I could talk to you for days about happiness or any other subject for that matter.
Well,
But yeah, it's been great to have
sure
you
we'll
here.
maybe have another conversation.
Oh yeah, definitely. You'll definitely be a regular on the podcast.
Okay.
So
All
thanks
right.
again.
You're welcome. Thank you.